note to start on. These things are awesome. They're big-ass praying mantises covered in slime. They slay anything that comes in their path, and they hide under the earth. It's awesome.
I don't think they're covered in slime.
All right, that's it, guys. Thanks for checking into the survival check.
Yep, that was Ankheg.
See you next week.
Later. Yeah, bye. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Survival Check, your unofficial guide to the Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Monster Manual. Like always, my name is Zach, and tonight I will be your guiding ranger as we cross the grasslands, avoiding the beasts below. And with me on this journey, like always, the rest of my party, Tevis, Shayne, and Anderson. All right, who you guys playing? What do you guys got?
I'm Anderson.
Not what I meant.
I'm Tevis.
I'm just your local. I'm. Hold on.
I call the upper thorax of the bug.
I'm just your local entomologist.
All right.
I'm a junior ranger, guiding the entomologist, not really knowing what I'm doing.
I'm just the kid with the magnifying glass.
And I'm the ranger who sits in the corner of the tavern with a eye patch on, just smoking because of all the Ankhegs I've run into.
You're in over your head.
You know what this
You're in
podcast
over your
needs?
head, kid.
You know
I've
this
seen these take
podcast
down
needs?
cows.
You need another white straight male.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, jeez. Well, anyway, welcome back, everyone. Like I said, we are Survival Check. Blah, blah, blah. Dungeons & Dragons, Monster Manual, all that fun stuff. Tonight, we will be going over the horse. Okay, so I'm going to say this out. A lot of people call these, like, horses, desert horses, like borrowing desert horses. I don't get the meme of it. I don't see how they're horses.
Can you ride them?
I mean, you
can ride anything if you try hard enough.
Yeah. But yeah, so other than that, we are going over the Ankheg, the giant praying mantis who lives under the the grassland floors. That is this huge beast of actually monstrosity, not even a beast. This large monstrosity that eats the farm animals and all that fun stuff. Because this is an audio medium, I would definitely look up a picture of these dudes.
Yeah, they're actually pretty gnarly.
They are. Especially, okay, we'll get into this in the history, but definitely look up the first edition version of these because they're really funny looking then. They look like centipedes. But anyway, Ankhegs. So, like always, let's start with our prior knowledge. Has anyone run these, played against these, rode one of these? I've never used an Ankheg that I'm aware of.
I have never in my 4.5 years of D&D experienced one of these in-game.
Same.
Yeah.
Are we all going into the blank
We're all
slate?
junior rangers today.
We're all getting our Ankheg badge tonight. I've never used them. You're right. In the 4.5 years, I don't even think when I played Pathfinder, because they're in Pathfinder also, I've never ran into them. They're just like they're interesting. All right. Well, so usually this segment is a little bit longer, but it's not. So let's jump into the monster's history. Everyone buckle up, time machine, that whole thing. Let's play a new game tonight. Because last week, Animated Objects, we found them to be completely new monsters in Dungeons & Dragons. Do you guys think the Ankheg is a classic monster or a new monster?
You literally just said look up first edition Ankhegs like 5
I
minutes ago.
am an idiot, so we're going to stop talking.
He gave us the key. He gave us the
It was a riddle. It was a riddle. Damn it. All right, well, we're going to skip this part. All right, let's talk history. As you could tell, I need to drink more water or something, or caffeine, because my brain was eaten by an Ankheg. All right, so disregarding that whole statement, let's go into the history of the Ankheg. So, like I said earlier, that I forgot I said, first edition, we get the Ankheg. And out of all the monsters we have covered so far on this show, the Aarakocra, the Aboleth, the Angels, the Animated Objects, this is the oldest, the earliest of all these monsters. This came before them all, even Aarakocra, which Aarakocra previously was the earliest. The Ankheg is a classic monster. So with animated, actually, if we go to Aboleth, I believe that was Dragon Magazine like 47, and Angels was like Dragon Magazine 87. Dragon Magazine again being this publication that ran kind of alongside Dungeons and Dragons, where people could submit monsters, adventures, and all that stuff. We actually have the Ankheg appearing in Dragon Magazine number 5. That is in 1977.
Whew.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's our first time going back in history rather than closer to present day.
Yeah. Yeah. So 1977 is the first time we see the Ankheg. It is in Dragon Magazine number 5, and it was designed and submitted by the famed D&D artist Errol Otis. I'm probably saying that name so wrong. It looks Scandinavian. It's like EROLOTUS. A little bit on Errol Otis, which again might be saying that wrong. He is kind of this famed figure in D&D lore. He really helped create a lot of the early artwork of D&D, so this was his kind of contribution in the monster sense, but his art is pretty cool if you look it up. I really like the style of like the first 2 editions of Dungeons and Dragons.
They almost look like tarot cards.
Yes, yeah, they have that kind of style. Like we get like really realistic looking stuff in the 5th edition, but like they had their own style back in 1st edition that looked like tarot cards. And the first version of the Ankheg very much it looks like a centipede and almost like an alien centipede, which was really cool. So yeah, earliest monster, 1977, Dragon Magazine number 5. Later on, when the first monster manual was released, which I think was 79, 80s, they were in there. So went from Dragon Magazine to monster manual. Like I said, they look like a centipede, and I'm not gonna lie. Usually in this part of the show, we talk about how the monsters transform, change how they are, what they are, with their lore over 1st edition all the way to 5th edition, but doesn't happen with the Ankheg. The Ankheg, even in like its first portrayal, was always this creature, this large insectoid that lived underneath the farmland most of the time, or the woodland that like would just kind of torment the local towns. There was nothing really like supernatural about them. They were just very large praying mantises that would yeet your cows if you were a farmer. Which I guess it could eat and yeet
them.
Yes, eat them, then eat them. So the only thing I want to say about kind of their older versions before we move into 5th edition, because like I said, their history doesn't really change, is something that I wish that they would bring back in 5th edition that they did in 1st edition. So when you're looking in the 1st edition monster manual, it will list all the different monsters. It will give you their stat blocks, all their stuff, a little bit of like their background, like 5th edition does. But it will also say like numbers appearing. Like if you saw an Ankheg, how many monsters would appear? And it was like 1 to 6.
So like on average, how many are together when you run into them?
Exactly, which I think is really cool and neat, and kind of gives you like an idea, because in the 5th edition version of the Ankheg, it doesn't really say like, do the Ankhegs move in a group? Are they a pact? Are they like a colony?
Mm-hmm.
So at least like that number in 1st edition gives you an idea that, okay, these creatures aren't just like solo by themselves.
Right.
They can be moved more in a group, which I think makes them a little bit more terrifying.
Yeah, I like that idea of bringing that into the monster manual too, because the book is just like a guideline. None of it is set in stone. So I know that they don't want to flood it with too much detail to make it feel like it's their game and we can't alter it, but at the same time, like being able to see the people who made this game and their thoughts on how their creature would be, like I would love to see that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, I agree. And yeah, so that was 1st edition. There's other one also, so I lied. There's also one other thing about 1st edition I want to talk to before we get to 5th edition, which is actually Dragon Magazine number 117. So first appearance, Dragon Magazine number 5, created and designed and submitted by D&D artist Errol Otis. We go all the way to Dragon Magazine 117, which is a couple years down the line. And it actually has this cool, like 4 to 5 page article on the Ankheg, which was a pretty cool read. It was actually from the point of view of a young wizard who like was sent to this town, and like the main wizard was gone, and the farmlands became infested with Ankhegs. and like the townspeople are coming to the wizard, and the wizard was like, I don't know what the hell to do here. Like, there's a lot of them. I don't even know how to cast light, and it was really fun. But again, it was more fluff. It was more about like the same stuff we get in 5th edition about how that they like lurk under the earth, that they really torment like the farm hands. They like, because they're big, they're large creatures, so they need to hunt. It also brings up a interesting point of view in the ecology of the Ankheg about how farmers might want to keep these bug creatures around just because they have nutrients they put into the soil, and the taverns they like make bring water to the farms. So like some farmers might even keep them around as long as they're not eating all the cows, which was an interesting point of view. But
Kind of awesome.
yeah, it was cool. I was Dragon Magazine is really cool. I think there is like some type of form of it in current 5th edition that's like some online thing, but like the last couple episodes and like reading through Dragon Magazine, like it's really cool how people would just like write articles on different locations or monsters, and kind of just because it wasn't officially D&D, it was more of like a side project. People could put like homebrew like lore and stuff into it, but we also see like a lot of monsters come from that, so it was kind of a cool like crowdsource thing.
Yeah, there is a new one called Dragon Plus.
Oh,
It's dnd.dragonmag.com.
okay, well I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are cool. Like I said last episode, you can find all the Dragon magazines like in archives online, which are cool. Read through them. So then through the years, that was 1st edition. 2nd edition, they stay the same. 3rd edition, they stay the same. 3.5, they stay the same. 4th edition, they become magical beasts.
Why?
Sure.
I couldn't find out why. So actually, this is an important fact. So 1st edition, beast. 2nd edition, beast. 3rd edition, beast. 3.5, beast. 4th edition, magical beasts. 5th edition, I already said what creature type this is earlier in the episode. Do you guys remember what in 5th edition type?
Monstrosity.
Monstrosity, which is weird. I think like
Between a monstrosity and a beast.
So what
Is a
I
beast
always
more like? Go on.
So yeah, I always thought monstrosities were like supernatural or magical in essence, or like like that, and beasts are more like natural things. Which there's nothing magical about the Ankheg, so I don't understand the monstrosity.
I guess
tag.
when I hear monster, like if I think of it in terms of like The Witcher, you have beasts, which are like animals, and then you have monstrosities, which are like, the other stuff that doesn't necessarily fit a specific.
Maybe its origins. Like its origins are magical.
I couldn't find any history on it having any magical origins, and like the monstrosity versus beast debate online is actually a really interesting subculture of D&D, because there is like a pretty lively, if you search hard enough, there is like a debate between a bunch of people why it's a monstrosity.
I would imagine the difference, at least in D&D terms, between beast and monstrosity is beast is something that can plausibly be placed into the real world, like a bugbear.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, an owl bear. Super close to a normal bear, just with an owl head. Like realistically, something like that could have happened, right?
An owl bear is actually a monstrosity.
Is it?
Of course.
Yep, I just looked it up.
I'm gonna redact my whole fucking statement.
I was like, I just wanted to make sure, because that sounds right. Like, an owl bear should be a beast.
Seen a lot of owl-headed bears running around.
You don't know.
I mean, genetically speaking, an owl bear IRL would plausibly make sense. An Ankheg IRL would not, because its hard exoskeleton like carapace would weigh far too much for regular insect mass and muscle to move, scaled up to the size it is in D&D. It's not a 1-to-1 translation of growth, right? It doesn't work that way, because as your size like doubles, your volume like quadruples. And so the size of you cannot contain all of that new volume and you don't have the ability to support yourself. So like if a human were to make 20 feet tall, their whole bodies would just collapse because we just aren't structurally built to run that way.
That makes sense. Yeah. So I guess monstrosities are just kind of like, I think you put it right. They're just kind of like they wouldn't really exist. Because now I'm like looking through the monster manual, like basilisks, and stuff are monstrosities.
Beasts are more like animals, things that would be like a horse or a bear or
real life animals in D&D are beasts. Anything else?
Yeah, and dinosaurs are real. I don't know why I said it like dinosaurs aren't real, but you know what I mean.
Are dinosaurs beasts?
They should be. I think they are.
I think they are. Here, let's look at T-Rex. Yeah, I'm like 99% sure they are. Yeah, because you can summon them as a druid. That's the only reason. So yeah.
All right. So to bring the ropes back in, Ankheg,
Yeah, Ankhegs. Ankhegs are kind of dinosaurs, not really, but yeah. So yeah, they're all beasts, and then there are magical beasts in 4th edition for some reason, and then they're monstrosities in 5th edition. Boom. That's the history of Ankhegs. They don't really have like a big adventure that they pop up in. They aren't known. They did pop up in like the Baldur's Gate video game for a bit, which is kind of a notable thing if you play the Baldur's Gate games in like the 90s and early 2000s. They made an appearance. They were like blue in it though, so that was kind of weird. They also have a pretty cool miniature that you can buy. And they were like in the D&D card game, and they were a big deal in there. So that's the history of the Ankhegs through D&D. Let's talk about them. Oh, go ahead.
There was a D&D card game.
Yeah, I think because Wizards of the Coast and Magic, I'm betting they're like, oh, we are making so much money off this cardboard crack. Let's see if we can just make another game and sell D&D cards along with that. That's my thought. I don't know if that's true, but that's my thoughts on it.
Okay.
Anyway.
Thank you, Wizards of the Coast, for D&D. We'd mean you no harm.
Yeah, don't come at us. We like you.
We come in peace.
We come in peace. Yeah, so let's talk 5th edition. So, like I said, the Ankheg don't really change that much throughout the years. They're still these large praying mantis-like beasts that live under the ground, that they're predators. They burrow, they hunt their prey, usually their prey being large animals like cows or like elk, because they are native to the grassland, not Elvis. They're not native to Elvis's home. They're native to grassland and forests. But yeah, in 5th edition, they are considered lurkers in the earth, bane of field and forest, and earthen tunnel, and they do earthen tunnels. So,
from an outside viewpoint, it's a little interesting to see that they're not just specifically cave dwellers.
Yeah.
Like my initial assumption would be like these are burrowing creatures and live underground, and they do, but it states specifically bane of fields and forests. Like so they come out to the surface level quite a bit to hunt. Like I just wouldn't have expected that from these.
Right, I actually before I did research, I thought they were like desert creatures.
Me too.
Right? Like they
seem like it.
I don't know if it's like the Ankh, like that part of the word, or like that they kind of are like brownish and tan, like they kind of look like they might fit in a desert, or like maybe like I don't know if I was thinking like a scarab, but yeah, they are field and forest. So if we go through this, lurkers in the earth, they use their giant mandibles and their claws to dig large tunnels underneath. These are big bugs. And they use that to their advantage. So they're one of the few monsters that have burrow in it. So their history shows that. So they'll actually like they'll crawl through the ground, dig large holes, and then they'll like go underneath like their prey and then like jump up jaw style and like pull them down into them, or they'll come up and they'll eat their prey. Bane of field and forest, that is their landscapes. They like to stay in grasslands or forests. I'm thinking like probably not really dense forests, possibly because they're big creatures. They probably need some room, so they use the undergrowth. They go through there. It's kind of like interesting thinking. Like if it was a really dense forest, all like what happens to like all the roots underneath the trees if there's like a lot of Ankhegs in the forest?
Do they coexist well together with them, or are they an enemy to them? Like would if you came across a forest populated by Ankhegs, would it be like decrepit and beat up, or would it be like really healthy because of all of the nutrients? Seems like they work well together.
Yeah, so in actually being a field and forest, it does say that like they receive a certain portion of the nutrients from the soil. So it's like they kind of like are feeding off the area around them. But if we go back all the way to Dragon 117, back in the history of the Ankheg Ground First Edition, it was even said that like they're good for farmlands and help bring like nutrients and water and stuff to like the lands that they're in. So I'm guessing like they wouldn't destroy the forest; they might even amplify it.
Right. I think that they would work well together. If there was a innocent passerby or an animal or whatever that got eaten by an Ankheg, and they pulled them underground and just like left whatever was left over when they were done eating, it would definitely
Oh, absolutely.
around it.
Yeah. So then the last thing about them in the monster manual and their like history, their lore is earthen tunnels, and this is pretty much just says they burrow through the earth. They leave a narrow, partially collapsed tunnel in its wake. In these tunnels, one might find the remnants of molted Ankheg chitin, hatched Ankheg eggs, or the grisly remains of Ankheg victims, including coins and other treasures scattered during the creature's attack. So this is kind of like in the monster manual saying like, hey, if your party finds their way in there, you can like kind of easily put loot there, like on dead bodies if you need to.
Fun fact, the word is chitin, and it is the exoskeletons of bugs chitin. When they shed them.
Yes, thank you. I said that wrong, but yes, chitin are
the entomologist.
Yeah, okay.
And entomology.
Entomologist this.
Entomologize better. You're getting shown by the magnifying glass.
Something that did pop up in the earlier editions that I didn't talk about is that like that doesn't pop up in 5th edition, is like in 1st and 3rd edition. I want to, if I remember correctly from what my research is, that it actually told you in the book that you could like take the armor of the Ankheg, like its exoskeleton, and actually like turn it into armor and like turn its like mandibles into axes and stuff.
Oh, that's sweet.
But it doesn't have that in 5th edition, which I mean you can still do that. Like it just doesn't explicitly say it in 5th edition.
Be a bug knight.
That would be cool, like rocking all Ankheg like armor, like having an axe.
Root of the swarm covered in Ankheg fucking hide.
That's awesome.
You hide in the desert floor, just pop. Well, not desert, grassland floor.
Just floor. Just hide in the floor.
Just hide in
any floor. Any floor will do.
Any floor, just pretend. Yeah, and that's the history of it. So let's jump into the monster stat block. So this is the part of the show where we look at the stat block of 5e, kind of talk about it. What makes it strong? What makes it weak? What makes it unique? Wow, did I just rhyme there? But yeah. So let's talk Big Bug Boy.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
First thing I noticed that is so astoundingly unique to me is this thing has 2 different armor classes, depending if it is upright or prone. It has 14 AC on a regular basis, but if it is prone, it has 11. That's crazy to me, and I love seeing that.
Why is that?
I would assume any other. The idea is the bug has either flipped over and has exposed its soft underhide, and it is much easier to pierce, or the idea of it being flat instead of standing upright in defensive position, you can get between the plates.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be my assumption. And nowhere does it state why that is a thing.
Yeah,
it doesn't. Yeah, which honestly, I'll probably eat this later on in our recordings, but I honestly don't know any other monsters that have that.
I have never seen anything like that.
Yeah, I've never seen it either. So that is very unique to it.
Like official, right? I've never seen a written something like that. I've changed AC out the fly because someone gets a shield knocked off or armor gets burned or
for sure.
But
yeah, and I think it doesn't state why, but I think you're right, Anderson. It probably does have to do you're probably in an advantageous area where you can get through its exoskeleton to its pink underbelly.
It has 39 speed. Oh, that's health. Never. I'm sorry.
That would be weird if it did have 39 speed. D&D has 5 squares, but this one can go 90% of a square.
4 4/5 of a square.
Yeah.
But it had more burrow speed.
Yeah, its burrow speed of 10 feet is kind of upsetting.
Lackluster.
Yeah, but in the nature of it,
big.
Yeah, it is. It is very large, and in the nature of it, they're ambush predators, right? It's not really their transportation.
They're not gonna street sharks you. You're not gonna be like standing there and then it's Tremors where it's just like just like the large land masses just like flying at you as you're standing there. No, they're gonna be waiting and waiting for like because they have tremor sense, which is the next thing we should talk about. Is they do have a burrow speed of 10 feet, but they have tremor sense up to 60 feet, which means that they don't have to hear or see you. They just have to feel your vibrations. So
vibes, man. If you got bad vibes,
if you have bad vibes, they're coming for you. Which the tremor sense really makes sense because they are ambush predators. They can just like wait. They probably probably made dense areas, and they just wait underground, wait for someone to walk over, then jaws, attack, boom, get them.
And on that note of it being an ambush predator, it has absolutely no dex to back that up.
No, this thing is like big and bulky.
Yeah, but it's just kind of like interesting to see like they made the creature to be effectively an ambush predator, and to be like an underground creature, but a lot of its hunting methods are outside of its native realm, and they're not built to hunt like that, so to speak. It's just an interesting combination of everything.
Very true. Yeah, you're right, because they're not fast. So like,
30 movement speed.
They have to eat like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
I would imagine the 10 feet of burrow speed is to set up the traps and to like over time build tunnels for homes and things like that.
Right.
But not actually transportation.
Yeah, definitely. I think that is like the burrow is like, if you're thinking like D&D combat, it's like that 10 feet is not like to move around the battlefield. It is to start the fight off by popping out. They have dark vision also, so they have dark vision and tremor sense, which
that's nice.
It is nice, yeah. It makes so I think there's two different ways Ankheg fights go with this stat block. Above ground, your party is going to have the advantage. Their AC is a little lower on the lower side. They're kind of slowish. They don't have that much. I expected them to have more hit points than they do. But like it's like a normal fight above ground. But if you are underground with no light, absolutely the Ankheg's fight to win. So there's that.
It kind of like blows my mind a little bit that these creatures are a CR2.
Yeah.
They seem very lackluster. Because for the listener's standpoint, so far what we've talked about is armor class, hit points, speed, stats, and senses. And that's really all there is. They have no abilities, no ability scores, no stats that are
any languages.
Right, doesn't speak any languages.
Don't even speak common.
They don't even speak common. They have an average bite that does roughly 13 damage with like acid, and you have to make like a grapple check. And then they do have an acid spray with a recharge of 6.
Yeah, which is a high recharge. Like dragons don't even have that high of a recharge.
Yeah, theirs are 5 to 6, right? So you have a 1 in 6 chance of recharging that, and the damage is on a 3d6, and it's one of those 30 feet by 5 feet wide beams. It's not even like a cone.
Think have their bread and butter, and they set the traps. You're not gonna catch one of these guys out probably.
That's fair.
I will have to say there's one thing that I'm very disappointed about this creature that probably makes me not want to run them. If we look at their pictures, and they're based off praying mantises, they have the coolest looking claws. What type of attack do they not have? They do not have a claw attack. They do not have a claw attack. I get it.
They don't even have multi-attack or anything like that. It's just bite or acid spray.
That is why I want to go back to first edition where it said 1 to 6 creatures, because in the monster manual in 5th edition, it seems like it doesn't say about anything running these in groups or not. I think this by itself, like most fights, is not a great fight. It is boring.
Yeah.
But I think throw in a couple of these, but then it's like a CR2. So like, what range party is fighting like a bunch of these?
You
I don't
could
know.
always like just buff it up, give it a claw attack, you know.
Yeah, you could. I mean,
I
yeah,
don't know, raise the AC.
Make it tankier.
I don't know.
with,
Yeah,
like,
make it a little bit tankier.
skeleton. If
Just
you
give
had
it.
like a gang of them come out, you can have an assassin one that jumps the bar,
Yeah.
and then like a bunch of other ones jump out. One that focuses its acid spray. Maybe it has like a lower AC, but also only 5 for recharge.
Like they live in colonies, but like they're specialized. So some of them are specialized.
I think
Oh.
these would make a really great addition to any kind of hive mind insect group.
Yeah.
yeah. I think they would. Yeah, I think you can reflavor them good. But like, if we're talking rules as written monster, like I think this is the most lackluster one we've covered so far.
I agree.
Oh yeah.
I wish, like it has its place probably, but it's I don't know if it has its place in any of my games. Like,
Yeah. It might be
like,
good filler content for like, traveling in the Underdark or something like that if you're rolling a random encounter.
yeah.
Yeah, or like there could be like I don't know, we can get to it later, but like there's like social context you could have, I don't know. Like
Right.
Maybe like a tribe or something that you meet in the forest. Like a coming of age ceremony is going out and hunting one and killing it.
For sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, so anything else we want to talk about the stat block? The stat block is just this like, yeah, it has the grapple. It doesn't have multi-attack, which is kind of disappointing.
I just want to say, like, their stats are lackluster, but I feel like they have a lot of potential. Like, still, like, it depends on the situation, right? Like, I'll get into that in the next section, I guess.
For sure.
It's hard not to.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So with that being said, that is the monster stat block. Let us move on to the last part of our episode, in which we talk about how we would use them in our own game. So that is going to be our social, exploration, combat, and then putting our own spin on the creature. Let us start social. I will have to say, like I did say, I think this monster is lackluster, but I still have some ideas on how you could run them. They're not my favorite. Like, which is known. If anyone loves the Ankheg, I apologize. Like, but there's just some monsters that they just don't do it for me, and this is one of them.
Oddly enough, this one does do it for me.
Go ahead then.
So for as far as social encounters, I really like the idea of like the farmer that uses them to his advantage, and like maybe the Ankheg isn't necessarily the meat of the social encounter, but it'd be a fun thing to see if you were like talking to the local wacky farmer that like has a couple pet Ankhegs that he uses to stave off like things like wolves and coyotes, and also to sort of like till his land and fertilize his land and things like that. Maybe they're not the meat of the social encounter, but you could throw them in somewhere to kind of like make something a little more interesting.
Yeah.
They're kind of malleable in that way, I think. I also like the idea of like a witch in the woods that lives in like a really dense Fey style forest where they just kind of hang out like guard dogs, burrowing around and staving off bad things.
Yeah.
But again, like for a social encounter with them, I don't think you're going to talk to one.
No.
Well, no, and social doesn't have to be all conversational either. But like those are all good examples of how you can use them in the social aspect. You could even have people riding them. Like it doesn't say them like beasts, but you can still have them riding them. That's like a thing. There could you could have different tribes riding them. So there's that.
Across the desert or something.
Yeah, you could run into, if you wanted to get into an adventure, you could do like the classic town, like cows are missing at night. What is destroying them? If you want to do like a little monster mystery during like low levels, you could definitely do that with Ankheg.
I think it's all about like what you do with them.
Mm-hmm.
If you like them, you can.
They're a really nice blank slate to work with.
Yeah.
Like I almost wish that I had used these in some of the low-level encounters in my campaign. Like instead of you guys fighting wolves, should have just fought.
Yeah, for like filler monsters, they are quite memorable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll give them that. They are, as roll on a table, get Ankhegs. Like that is a memorable fight. It's better than just fighting like wolves or like bears or anything. Like it is. Oh wow, this thing came with a
Barrel of the worst barrel out there.
Yeah, like this is a good like travel monster. This is like a good like, oh shit, they're about to travel like 3 days. Like instead of just having this being boring. Oh, they're walking through the forest. Oh no, the ground's shaking. Boom, Ankhegs. It's just. No, I don't see it. It's if this is a plate of dinner, your D&D is a plate of dinner. This is like
hopefully it's not salted or buttered.
Yeah, it's like your biscuit almost. It's like it's on the side. It's there. It's part of the meal. It's just I mean, I can see how memorable fights can happen. Especially if like one of these pops up and like cuts a tree in half with its mandibles, which is cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just something about it. It doesn't do it for me. I don't know. I love all the monsters. Like, it just doesn't do it for me. Anyone have anything? Yep, go ahead.
I kind of like them in like a more exotic setting, like with other monstrosities of a similar variety, like other large animal or beastie looking monstrosities. Like, isn't there like a giant crab or something? Like if someone fell into a pit. If someone fell into a pit full of these and like other creepy crawlies that are of the large variety, like that could be a spooky encounter.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Agreed.
All right.
I think it's very situational.
I mean, I have a really good idea about putting your spin on the creature that you could use this. That would probably be the only reason I would ever use this. But when we get into that part of the episode, I'll talk about it. But that's like the only like thing I'm ever excited to use this for. So, and I guess I'm excited for this next part. Exploration. Let's talk about exploration. So I think it would be really cool to make your party go into the tunnels of an Ankheg.
Yeah,
that'd be
for
a fun
sure.
session.
Maybe like a item retrieval kind of like mission.
Yeah,
Cow
definitely.
retrieval.
Like someone goes missing in the town, you don't know why. Then like you go into the forest, you find a tunnel, and you just like keep going deeper and deeper and deeper, like into like an actual hive of Ankheg. Like that would be a fun, like maybe one shot or like session or two, like kind of like probably made part of your main plot or story of like what campaign you're running or something. But it would be like a cool little like side adventure.
Yeah.
You could also.
I like the idea of them being like modes of transportation, only in the sense of non-normal terrain. So like almost like a small sea of sand. Takes like half a day travel back like an Ankheg, but if you were to step onto it, you would start sinking, right? Like you would need burrow speed to be able to travel across it. Maybe it's even not that big, but it's like a giant wide sand river or something dividing up, or something like that.
I do like that. I do like that idea. I do like the idea of riding these. They're not the fastest mount, but they would be cool.
Yeah. I like the back to the whole cohesion with nature thing. I just picture like a super lush forest with, like you said, kind of like a hive underneath it that picks off like passersby and different animals that pose a threat to the forest and stuff like that, and use their bodies and stuff to provide nutrients to the forest. And it's just super dense. Maybe there's like a group of people that live there, and they know the Ankhegs are under there, and they're just like forest dwelling people. And you would have to explore that place. Gosh, I feel like there was cool places I could have put these in my campaign, and I missed it. Like I missed the ball.
Yeah, for sure.
You still have time.
Yeah, I mean, you throw a bunch of these can become a pretty good challenge for like mid to late game part. I mean, not like late game, but like late mid. Throw up like probably like 6 of them, and that would be a hive, and that would be kind of a tough combat. Yeah. Anyone else have anything to say about exploration on these dudes? These giant praying mantis dudes. Still upset they don't have claw attacks.
Yeah. Advice to all: add a claw attack. Just ignore the base stats.
All right. Well, let's talk combat with these. So, like I said, I don't run this by itself. I don't think they would be by themselves. It doesn't say in their lore or anything. I can't picture a single, because I'm thinking insects and stuff, and like praying mantises I think are more like solo creatures, but all like the insects that I know that like make tunnels like live in colonies, like ants and stuff. There's like a lot of them. So I don't see this thing as like a solo creature unless it's lost from the colony.
Not with that burrow speed. How are you gonna dig a hive 10 feet at a time? It's gonna take you forever.
Yeah, exactly. So I think combat, it would be like a good combat to throw at your party if maybe you needed a combat during a session. Maybe there's been a lot of like talking and travel and stuff, and like everyone knows that part where like there's so much travel that the party is just like, all right, let's just either get there or let something happen, but you like want to hold off. So like this is something you could throw in like grasslands, forest. I mean, I still think of it as a desert creature, even though it's not. Something you could throw at an ambush attack.
You can always reflavor it, make it a desert creature.
Right, absolutely. And I think how it does fight is it has one int, which we didn't talk about, so it's gonna fight like an insect, fight like an animal. It is just going to try to feed. It does have high wisdom, though. It has like a +1 in wisdom, so 13 wisdom. So like it's going to know how to hunt and probably hunt efficiently and really use that ambush. So this is probably one of those monsters that would definitely be setting up for a surprise round, especially if your party wasn't being super careful, because like who's expecting giant insects to be popping out of the forest floor as you're walking across it? Like surprise round, easy.
What I'm imagining with these is I would never run them on their own as an encounter, as you've stated, but I like the idea of like going off of the one int for these creatures. It's very easy to mentally manipulate these things. Because animated armor has one int as well, so it's borderline the same thing, right? I like the idea of like either a sentient bug or one that has enough intelligence to be able to command these and really set up not so much ambushes, but directing prey, so to speak, out in the wild, right? Like let's say there's like a herd of cows or something, or sheep. Like 4 of them would pop out and waiting for them to cross over. They'd pop out, scare them in one direction, then like another couple would pop out to scare them in a different direction, and they would herd, whatever kind of creatures they were hunting, following the leadership of like a bigger bug or some kind of hive mind aspect. So I feel like they'd be good like cannon fodder in that aspect. But
I like the idea of like a wizard or something, just having a bunch of these things, like some kind of like bug or swarm or plague themed wizard or sorcerer, like having these as his sort of pawns.
Druid Circle of the Spore.
Yeah, that would be really
that would be
I just see them as part of a bigger encounter. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
No, you're totally fine. Yeah. They just bigger encounter or just like throwaway encounter, like
why would you throw away
dish. I mean, sometimes you just gotta throw away encounters,
Like if you guys
weaken the party.
I just see like squaring up with like you said, like a druid in the woods that for whatever reason is no good. And it's like waves of these things on top of an onslaught of like magic and other weird stuff that's going on. But I don't really see them as like the main enemy in a fight unless you're kind of a lower level.
Yeah, definitely. Or like there's like a side quest where you have to like take them out. It's just like one of those like built-in boards quests too. It's just like, oh, cows are missing. Oh, gonna grab that. Let's go figure out what it is. Ankheg, boom. It's like a good 2 to 3 session, maybe 1 to 2 session arc that you can throw up with these guys. So I guess like they're good. Just
swang him.
I mean, I'm not still swayed. I still don't like. I still think there's a lot more. Like so many more monsters are interesting. I think, especially at this low level, that you can make out of quests. Like I don't know. I guess I wish like seeing the artwork, and I wish there was more to them. I guess like I just wish
for sure
there was just more. I don't know.
It looks cooler than it actually is.
Yeah. But I also don't know, like maybe the only thing I could think is like give it a claw attack, but like I can't really think of like how like I will say the artists and creators did a good job of like taking the monster and putting it in a stat block, because I don't think there's much you could change about it. It just is, for that CR, there's better. There's the Rug of Smothering, same CR.
Yeah,
much more fun.
If I'm going on a CR basis, like if I'm gonna pick out some CR2s to put in, like these guys aren't exactly near the top of the list, unless my party was doing something that was like very relevant to this.
Right, or like I think Anderson said and I've said, or if they're on like a list that you just roll. I think that'd be a good, it'd just be a good encounter to throw. Anyway,
it's super easy to plug in anywhere. You know, like walk down the street, bugs jump out of the ground. You know, like.
Yeah, I'll give it that. In that sense, it is a very easy monster to flip open your monster manual in the middle of a session, grab it, throw it. There's not any like extra steps to it. There's not like any like, oh, if this happens, this happens. It is a pretty simple monster to run. So it is a good just throw away. If you need a monster, use it.
They're coming to fight. That's why they're there.
Yeah. So let us move on to the last part of our show before we wrap things up, and let's talk about how we would change these monsters to fit in our own games and how we can make them interesting. I have an idea, but if anyone else would like to go first.
I'll lead us off.
All right. The year is 2122. Your name is Ripley Scott. You're on Nostromo.
Oh my
god. So I can't think of a better monster that you could reflavor as the alien. Maybe give it a little bit more burrow speed. And maybe it's not burrow speed. If you're doing like a sci-fi adventure or like space adventure, like you can make the burrow speed be vent speed. It has the acid spray. It has the bite. Like these are pretty easy monsters to turn into the alien from the Aliens franchise, or like any type of alien insectoid. You could use them. That's how I would use them. Seeing that I'm a fan of the Alien franchise and I like space horror and that kind of stuff. So you could definitely do that. I'd probably give him more movement speed if I did that.
You know what I would think would do better than an Ankheg in that aspect?
Yeah.
Bone Devil.
Ooh, you're right. You're right. I would agree. I'm trying to get the Ankheg something though.
I understand.
I mean, the Bone Devil is better than that. But no, yeah, I would use them as that. I would use them as aliens. Or even if you want to do like Starship Troopers, like you're being attacked by a wave of Ankheg.
Oh my god.
Like that's what you throw them at. Maybe they explode with like their acid if you want to add that in. That's what I got. How do you guys use these in your games?
I just like dropping them in other geographic locations like we've talked about and applying the same sort of like hive mentality combined with the controlling thing. Like I love the idea of like a bunch of desert riders that sort of have the command over like a small colony of these things, maybe like half a dozen of them. And like I said earlier, one of them is like a tank. He's far more armored and beefy, and one of them is a bit more ranged and focuses his acid spray. But the main beef of this group of riders are the riders. And then like you could kind of apply the same thing to just other locations, perhaps like in the, I don't know about like the ice and stuff, but you could like stumble across some prehistoric versions of these things that are frozen.
Yeah, they're like really big.
Yeah, that could be cool. Or that's another thing, planes and stuff, like bumping into one of these things in the Feywild might be a totally different experience.
Ooh.
Yeah, definitely. You could definitely like play with that. Or like Thelanis and Eberron, where everything is like 10 times bigger. Like it could be like a Godzilla size Ankheg, which would be cool.
That could be very, very fun to play around.
Just a Trask, I guess. But
that's funny.
Yeah, I just like the idea, like you said, they're very plug and play. So I guess I would just plug them into different areas. The Nine Hells, like different overlords could use these things in a more like spicy way.
Maybe like in an arena.
Yeah,
put them in an arena.
I like that a lot.
Or a zoo.
Or a zoo.
Zerial's slave workers build statues in her name.
Say that again.
Zerial's slave creatures building statues in her name.
Yeah, that would work.
Like maybe their acid spit like solidifies. Maybe I don't know.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like mortar.
In my in my campaign, we're running a Greek-based setting, as I've mentioned in previous episodes. There is an area where there's a couple areas where it's a very easy just drop in, and it would just geographically make sense. Like there's this one island. The whole setting takes place on one giant island, and you will be island hopping around the smaller islands at some point in the game. One of those islands is a half desert, half plains kind of island where a bunch of giant scorpions live. It'd be an easy drop in there in the sands. Super simple.
Yeah.
There's another island that has essentially like an ant colony on it, but they're not like humanoid bugs.
Right.
Like have actual appendages and limbs and things like that, as opposed to like normal bug features, like not like bug like legs. They still have chitin and everything like that, but
right.
Not yeah, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
they are a hive mind, and I could see these as being like pets of these creatures as well.
Yeah, definitely. So also
big bugs, pets, smaller bugs.
Yeah, you do this like throw them in a Honey I Shrunk the Kids scenario. Just make them praying mantises. They can spit acid. I don't think praying mantises can do that, but D&D. Yeah. Does anyone have anything else to say about the bug people, the giant bugs living under the forest, ready to eat you?
Nah. Good knowing you, bugs.
See them in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess I've convinced myself a little bit more. They're good throwaway monsters. Still not my favorite, but they have their place. They have their in the hierarchy of D&D monsters. They have their place. They're no rug of smothering, but no creatures a rug of smothering.
They're no Voltron of animated objects,
exactly.
But we can deal with it.
We can deal with that. Anyways, that is going to be the episode on the Ankheg. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You were able to use the information we talked about, or the history, or anything we've said, and use them in your own games, kind of spice them up a little bit. Or you could think we're all wrong and the Ankhegs could be the greatest monster of all time, which is also a valid point. Let us know. Exactly. Let us know. Yell at us. I will take being yelled at. I don't know what that says about me, but yeah. So thank you guys all for listening. As always, next week we will return with the way too jacked bronze dwarfs of the fire plane. They're so jacked, guys. I don't know if you've seen the picture in the Monster Manual. They're so jacked. They're like a 10-pack. But next week we are talking about the Azir, something like that. They are these fire dwarfs. They are pretty cool. I like them. I've used them a few times. We will be talking about them. And yeah, so before we get out of here, let's do some plugs. What you guys got?
You can catch me live at twitch.tv/bringtheshayne.
At twitch.tv/Tevisar with 2 R's. TEVISSAURR.
That was smooth.
That was smooth. Anderson, do you want to plug your stuff?
Yeah, you can catch me playing live D&D every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, on twitch.tv/20OrDie.
I love that name so much. The 20 or Die for like.
That's a good name. Yeah,
it's a good name.
It's the Greek setting that I'm running for my players, but I'm a player in it, so it's very good.
Cool. I'm gonna need to. I'm like always busy around there. I'm gonna have to check that out.
YouTube. YouTube.com/20OrDie.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right, I will definitely be checking that out. For my plugs, I am twitch.tv/FarmGoat. You can find me on Thursdays playing different tabletop role-playing games. Playing a lot of indie solo games. So this week, which is like towards the end of September, I am playing 1,000-Year-Old Vampire. I also have been uploading all those playthroughs on my YouTube page, which is also FarmGoat. So if you want to see some more indie solo different games other than D&D, different tabletop role-playing games, go check that out. It's been tons of fun. I also stream other stuff, but that's like the thing I'm most excited about. But yeah, so as always, you can find us at Survival Check Show on Instagram, Survival Check on Twitter. Yeah, so you can check us out on YouTube at the TM Survival Guide. Under Survival Check, you will find this stuff. We did the DM survival guide because we might upload some other things talking about other than monsters. So that'll be the place to go. I am also working on getting this podcast on other podcasts, you know, like all the other podcasts say, oh, and you can listen to it any place you can find podcasts. Well, I'm trying to figure out how we do that. So if you listen to podcasts not on SoundCloud or YouTube, which also SoundCloud Survival Check, which I mean, I don't listen to podcasts on YouTube and SoundCloud, so I'm trying to get them to like the other podcast apps like Podcast Addict and stuff, so that it's easier listening. That should be happening soon, hopefully before the next episode. But yeah, that's it. My mouth is really dry right now.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thank you for listening. I hope everyone has a great week, great day, great session. Don't get eaten by bug people, and yeah, we will see you all next episode as we talk about the jacked fire dwarves. Yeah, bye. Be excellent to each other.
Thanks for listening, Chris.
Peace.